ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the August 21st Diversion Authority Finance Committee meeting. Don, could I please have the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Here.
Mayor Mahoney.
Here.
Mayor Carlson.
Here.
Mr. Steen.
Here.
Ms. Thompson.
Here.
Mr. Ebinger.
Here.
Mr. Redlinger.
Here.
Mr. Grimberg.
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
I'm here.
Mr. Reeds. Ms. Madriga.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you, Don. Item number 2 is to approve the minutes of July 24th, 2024. It is in your packet. It's on page 3.
Peterson, motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Steen seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of July 24th. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 3 is to approve the order of the agenda.
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Pipcorn. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Peterson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the order of the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on, we're on item number 4 is the approval of the bills. We call on Susan Tomlinson, Finance Director for the City of Fargo. It's on page 5 of the packet.
All right, the bills that need to be approved for the month of August are listed on page 5. They total about $4.5 million, about a dozen of them. They're pretty typical. The 2 large ones, Cass County Joint Water Resources is some property, and the Clay County next one is some easements. Anyone have any questions on those?
Any questions on the bills? Commissioner Steen.
Yes, I do have a question, and this, I haven't even recognized this before, or I missed it somewhere along the line. We have a couple of bills there from a group called Ancura. They're to John Shockley. Can you explain what those are, please? I don't remember seeing it like a...
They're brand new. I asked the same question.
What's that?
They're brand new. I asked the same question just about an hour ago.
Commissioner Steen, the company has been retained as an expert to assist with scheduling issues associated with the P3.
Is your mic on?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, much better, thank you.
Commissioner Steen, the firm has been retained to assist with scheduling issues associated with the P3 and regarding potential claims regarding schedule delays. They are experts in providing analysis and in-depth forensic. When you try to pull apart a schedule and talk about what delays could occur, what didn't occur, they're experts in that field.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Any additional questions? Ms. Thompson? This is a roll call vote. And my motion, please, to approve the bills as presented.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mayor Carlson. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Redlinger. Been moved and seconded to approve the bills as presented by Ms. Susan Thompson. Is there any discussion? Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Ebinger.
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
No.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item number 5 is a finance report. Again, we call on Susan Thompson, Finance Director for the City of Fargo, for the report. It's on page 30 of the packet.
Okay, page 30 is the year-to-date or historic revenues and expenditures, both for the diversion fund and for the budget fund. And then page 31 is the statement of net position as of the end of July. Project fund cash is $280.5 million. Budget fund is about $430,000, and then the grand total for the assets is $280,941,000. Liabilities in the diversion fund, about $18 million. It was some outstanding bills at the end of the month that weren't paid until August. So the net position for both funds is $262,806,544. At the last meeting, you had asked about how we're investing our cash. Would you like a little information? Okay. I think I remember having this conversation last year about the same time. So in doing some research, the function of the fiscal agent, the description was that the fiscal agent would invest in the same manner that the city is investing their funds. So we have a pooled cash fund that does include a great deal of the cash for the diversion. We also have a small investment portfolio as well. The pooled cash is through Wells Fargo. We have a money market sweep account that basically we sweep everything every night. It's invested in government grade short-term investments. Currently we're making 5.1% on that. And then we also have a small portion that is in PFM as our investor. And those are a little bit longer term, but also government grade securities.
Thank you. Any questions from the Finance Committee? Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. A second, please.
Second.
Been moved, Commissioner. I'm sorry, Rick. It's
We do it all the time.
Mr. Steen. It's,
He's a commissioner, Mr. Mayor,
yeah.
whether he likes it or not.
Yeah. We have a motion and a second to approve the finance report as presented by Susan Thompson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 6 is a cash budget report. We call on Mr. Barthel. It's on page 55 of the packet. Good afternoon, Paul, and welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Just want to point out a kind of piggyback on Ms. Thompson's report. If you notice in our annual revenue status, there's a line called financing proceeds, and that is the interest earnings that she was discussing. So while it's not delineated in the cash position, we do track it in our annual revenue status, along with the City of Fargo sales tax and the Cass County sales tax that's come in during that month. So looking at that position, we had about, again, $5 million come in revenue in the last month. We're looking at year to date just under 97 million for revenue coming into our accounts. For our level 1 overall summary, again, still tracking. There are several areas, a couple areas that were have some significant expenses to go yet, especially our third-party MOU mitigation. However, you will notice that there is a significant bump in our lands cost and impacted property mitigation. We're up to almost 48 million in that one, leaving us with about 15. Jody Smith and her team have been working very hard to close out a number of very large properties and property owners and getting everything finalized in the upstream mitigation area and the southern embankment so that the Corps can continue their work on the southern embankment. So a number of those were closed in May and June, and they hit the books in July. So that's why we're seeing that bump there. If we scroll down to level 2, I want to hit a couple things in there. Also in the lands area in the fiscal year, in our cash budget, we are overrunning in 3 areas under the land. On the diversion channel, we did have one final invoice come in. We had estimated at 100,000. It came in at 111,000, so we're a little bit over there. For the southern embankment and for the mitigation area, due to the complexity of several of the parcels, they had multiple impacts, or they were needed for different reasons. Some were TCEs, some were in the environmental areas, some were in the upstream mitigation area. And so we're looking at where those were coded in. I don't believe those are as accurate as I would like them to be, so we're going to go back and take a look at those and make sure that those are properly coded to the right section of the budget, since the parcels were in multiple sections of the budget. So I will take a look at that and report back at the next meeting. Hopefully we'll see an adjustment there to get those back online. Other than that, I think most of the others are progressing well. We do have one area that we did not budget under the other mitigation, and that's the work package 50, phase 2 demos. Had one that we had closed out, finalized on that one. That had been hanging out for a while, and so that's why that one is over budget this year. This month, it finally hit the books, was able to close that out and pay that retained. So, and then if we go down to the admin, nothing out of the ordinary there. We're seeing our standard salary and benefits, and then office and others seem to be tracking well also. So, any questions that folks might have?
Could you go back to the slide that shows the lands budget? We have $15 million approximately remaining in the calendar
Yes.
year, if that's correct?
Yes.
With the work that the lands team is doing, how comfortable are you that we're going to stay in budget there?
I'm fairly comfortable. My only hesitation, it depends on the legal system, and that I don't have time, the timing of when that will get through the legal system. Most of our parcels are within the eminent domain process, and so we are continuing to negotiate in there. I feel comfortable that we should be close to that 15 million. We might be a little bit over, but I'm fairly comfortable with that 15 million remaining.
Right, thank you. Mr. C.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a follow-up question to Mayor Dardis's question. So I'm looking at this, the lands piece here, and you have the obviously different components. And we have a total there of, what, 572,000 approximately for the program. Land and impacted property mitigation, 572,000, 571.70 million. I'm sorry, million.
Okay.
I'm sorry, million. And
Yes.
we've expended about 485, leaving us about 87 million left to go.
Correct.
I know we've seen some updates on lands. We've moved some money around with some of this latest stuff. Are we still pretty comfortable with the 87 million?
Yes, we did, in order to do that rebalancing that was done back in May, we looked at what our estimates to complete, and so we're doing that. And then also, after the next week, we'll sit down with, no, it's the following week. The first week in September, we'll sit down with Jody Smith, go through what needs to be in the cash budget for this next year. Anticipate what's going to come in the cash budget, but then also at the same time, we're going to revisit this. But Jody's been very adamant to hold to that 571 number. So we are not planning on increasing that at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is the MOUs and agreements. Call on Mr. Shockley. The discussion is around the Comstock Lutheran Church, the Metro Flood Diversion Authority, Clara Cemetery Agreement. It's on page 64 of the packet. Good afternoon, Ms. Shockley, and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pursuant to the Minnesota DNR permit, the MFDA has to have agreements in place with the Minnesota cemeteries. This is also reflected in the settlement agreement with the upstream and also further reflected in the PRAM, along with some federal requirements regarding historical preservation requirements. through the process of negotiation with the Clara Cemetery, which the Clara Cemetery is located to the west and slightly north of Comstock. It's on one of the maps that's attached to the MOU. An agreement has been reached between Clara Cemetery and the MFDA, where we're going to mitigate the impacts of the project to the cemetery. Would include the potential for grass and tree damage over existing conditions when you have flooding events, building some additional improvements to protect it from inflows of water, just the standard protection from the flood events. Happy to answer any questions, but.
Mr. Steen?
Thank you. Say, John, in here, I know it's a dike has to be constructed, and then we've got some easements that we have to account for. So I did see the two numbers I did see in this agreement were some tree removal and replanting issues for about $33,000. So what's the ring dike going to cost? And I'm assuming there's built in somewhere, but just curious.
My understanding from talking with Peggy is that the land has been acquired. The total project will be about 1.3 million. 1.8 million, sorry.
How much?
1.8 million for
Okay.
all the ring levy.
And that includes the easements as well? Or is there no cost to the easement? That's just part of the agreement?
Well, they've already been acquired.
Okay. That's already been acquired as well?
Yeah, they've already been acquired. There was a title issue because the cemetery, we had to go through
in
a
the
quiet
cemetery.
title action, a bunch of items, but those property rights have been acquired. I don't know exact cost of those.
The easements that needed to be acquired to build the levees, Jody's team was already in negotiations with those same landowners as they were working to acquire the flowage easements and other rights in the UMA. So they went ahead, because we knew the footprint of what the levee would need to be. So they went ahead and acquired those additional easements as part of those negotiations with the flowage easements, and they've already had agreements with those property owners, and they've already closed on them. I don't know the difference of what Jody's flowage easements cost in the addition of what was needed for the levies from those adjacent property owners, and then through the quiet title action in getting the land under the cemetery to be owned by the church, then a lot of the levy is being built right on the church's property than on the cemetery land.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Harder. Any additional questions for Mr. Shockley on this? This is an actionable item. A motion, please.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Mayor Carlson has been moved to approve. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Mayor Mahoney seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the MOUs and agreements regarding the Comstock Church and the Metro Flood Diversion Clara Cemetery Agreement. Is there any further discussion? Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Ebinger.
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
No.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
And that is everyone.
Moving on, item number 8 is the DA Board approval contracting actions. Again, we call on Paul Barthol for that. The discussion is Cass Rural Water Users District to number 12 to amend D. It's on page 94 and 96 of the packet. Oh, excuse me. That looks like that's, were you not done, John? Did I rush this?
Mr. Chair, if I could just have 2 minutes of the committee's time.
Certainly.
I just wanted to give just a verbal overview of where we are at with all of the MOUs. One of the big undertakings of this project has been getting MOUs done with all the different third parties, whether that's townships, counties, water resource districts, water user districts, cable companies, fiber companies, electrical companies. All told, there are generally about 100 of these agreements that were needed. We're down to another 10 at the most. And so through the efforts of the team, we've whittled that down where we can actually now start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel on these MOUs and agreements. So just wanted to call out Chris Backyard for all his work with the townships. I don't think we would have crossed the finish line on a lot of those MOUs with the township without Chris going to all those meetings. So
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. My apologies. Good job, Chris. Again, now we'll move on to Paul, number 8, for the approval contracting actions.
So again, to dovetail on the back of what Mr. Shockley just said, one of the agreements that we've come into is a master utility relocation agreement with Cass Rural Water Users District, Cass Rural Water. Underneath that master agreement, we've been assigning task orders for various aspects of work that they have been doing. In conjunction with the authority, there's also work that we're doing to provide redundancy to mitigate the impacts of the southern embankment and the project, the diversion channel on their system. And so this is just another one of those task orders. The Cass Rural Water Users District is in the process of getting ready to install 2.5 miles of 16-inch water main. This will connect them into the city of Fargo system to provide redundancy, especially during operations. A large section of their system is in that upstream mitigation area. And if that is inundated during our operations, they need the ability to, they're building in the ability to close off those structures, those pipelines within the upstream mitigation area, but then they need some way to backfeed it. And so the approach was to, and the agreement was to have them utilize the city of Fargo water as a backup. So this is the 2.5 mile connection to that, which is part of the overall master plan with the Cass Rural Water. So any questions there?
Questions? Move to approve. Mayor Mahoney moves to approve. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Mrs. Thompson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the Cass Rural Water User District Amendment for $709,916.94. Yep.
Just a question, is that the total cost of the project, or is that just our portion?
This is, of this project, this is the total cost of it.
2.5 miles of piping is only
Yeah.
that much? Okay.
Yes, so we are reimbursing, this piece is one of a larger agreement that we came with Cass Rural Water.
I can add,
Mr. Bacher.
I can add a little more background there. This was a project that did receive some state funding as well. So this is the portion of the project that became the Cass Rural Water's responsibility. So there was some additional cost share items, and I don't know
I was gonna
if we have
you
all
start-
that detail, but
Chris, start bidding on the Red River project, because I thought this is pretty cheap.
so yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bacher. Any other questions, comments? We have a motion and a second. Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Edminger.
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you, Don. Item number 9, under other business, we have 2 items. Again, the first one we're going to call on Mr. Shockley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the board may recall, as part of the overall financing plan for the project, there are 3 tranches of temporary refunding improvement warrants that backstop a lot of the financing for the project. You'll recall this year, the first tranche was the renewal of the authority loan warrants, which helped backstop the WIFIA loan and the SRF loan. The second tranche that you'll recall was the temporary refunding improvement bond that provided the additional working capital. And the third tranche is the P3 temporary warrants that backstop part of the portion of the financing that the developer brought to the project. Under North Dakota law, temporary improvement warrants have a maximum maturity of 3 years. Obviously, the construction of the project lasts longer than 3 years, and so you have an opportunity to renew them one time. And so it's already been 3 years since we closed on the project agreement, and the financing instruments that were put in place before the Cass County Joint Water Resource District allowed for the automatic renewal of the temporary P3 warrants with their consent. The Cass County Joint Water Resource District has already approved the renewal of the temporary P3 improvement warrants. Under the Joint Powers Agreement, the Diversion Authority Board also has to consent to it, and so that's why this resolution is before you. It's was pre-planned. It's a housekeeping issue, but a very important housekeeping issue.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Questions? Anyone?
Move to approve.
Mayor Mahoney moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Steen seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the resolution authorizing the exchange of a temporary P3 improvement warrants. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes?
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
And that is everyone.
Thank you, Don. Motion passes. Item B under other business is the co-executive director interim compensation. We're going to call on Commissioner Grinberg or Commissioner Peterson. Commissioner Peterson?
Mr. Grimberg, you want me to tackle this?
Yes, please. It'd be easier from having you do it virtually.
Okay, thank you. The intent of this was a dialogue opened up some time ago regarding the interim compensation for our co-executive directors, and by that I mean something directly as that. I brought this before our executive committee, and the dialogue consisted of me relating a situation that was presented to me as chair of North Dakota Insurance Reserve Board, asking me to step in when our executive resigned. I wound up taking up, and I'm overstating this, as executive director because I really wasn't the executive director, but there was no one else, so it became me. We eventually broke that into a team of 5, basically took all our department heads, dropped them into a leadership team, and they are now running, actually up until about a month ago, they ran the Insurance Reserve Board for us. But during that time, the logic was quite simple in that the other duties as assigned was no longer prudent because this became a director role. They wound up more supervisory, more supervision, more time outside their regular working hours, and my rationale was a parallel to that. So I think that with our co-executive directors doing what they've done for so long, and it's also prudent to mention this did not come from them. This is just my idea, or maybe a couple of ours' idea. I ran it by our chair to make sure I wasn't out of bounds, off board here. So it did not come from them. It came from me. And what I'd like to do is take a portion of what would have been our executive director's salary and split it amongst the pair of them. And that's really as complex as this is. We talked about some of the debate in leadership team meeting was, do we make it retroactive? And if so, how far? What is the total value? And I'm up to open debate, whatever that needs to be. My suggestion was, and I think it was, Commissioner Campbell brought up, most of us have staff within under our purview, and we often ask them, as someone resigns or is sick, is out of the office, we often ask them to step in for the interim portion of time to help sort of ferry things along until that employee, that team member comes back. So I was really reluctant to drop this all the way back to the day they took over because it kind of is part of your other duties as assigned. But I think once we start getting into that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, which this potentially could be until December, I think it's only rational and reasonable to ask them, or not ask them, but award them with a little bit of a bonus because I need my director full-time, Mayor Mahoney. I'm presuming you need your director full-time. So most of this work is being done sometimes outside their regular 40 hours. So I think the breakdown was essentially taking this on an hourly rate was my initial proposal, but we wound up, I think, deferring to a flat rate so we didn't have tracking of hours and minutes as the days progressed on. So
If I may, Commissioner Peterson,
yeah,
we
please jump in.
we had worked on a plan our approach, our recommendation rather, of June 1st. So it's retroactive to June 1st. We took the hourly rates between our two co-executive directors, came up with an average, and then we did the hourly calculation at a 20% per month involvement. So off the top of my head, I forget what the exact amount is. I can't remember if it's in the board packet or not, but that's what we'd like to propose is retroactive to June 1st. It's an average of an hourly rate between the two co-executive directors and their positions with the city and the county, and then a 20% until the position is filled.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mayor Mahoney moves, Mayor Carlson second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Steen?
Yeah, yeah, Commissioner Grenberg and Chad. Nothing was in the packet, so I wasn't sure what this was all about. So is it the 20%, is that actually going to the staff and themselves, or is it going to the county and the city? I didn't pick up on all that when you were talking, so I'm sorry if I missed
No,
that.
fair question. Commissioner Grimberg, I can take this if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, it would be a direct payment split between Mr. Redlinger and Mr. Wilson.
Do we have a dollar amount?
We do have a 20% of the average regular salary of the Fargo administrator, and I think this is sort of interim, around $3,300 per month per person.
That's correct.
The actual number is
that's real close.
$3,275. And we can get this detail for tomorrow for the formal motion, but let's call it $3,300, and again, that's split between our two directors. Or not split, it's each director, so $6,600 gross.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mayor Mahoney?
And Rick, you didn't hear the discussion we had before this in leadership when we talked about this, is the fact that, you know, you could do it hourly, but then every phone call they take, that's hard to track it that way. But in the city of Fargo, if we have somebody who dies and you have to have somebody step up, we usually have a program where we do something like this, 15, 20% that we pay to that person because of the extra work, which Mayor Carlson pointed out the fact that they had to kind of learn a lot of things. It's not quite as simple as the city department where you kind of know what's going on in the department, where they had to do other things with the DA because it's far beyond what we would normally do. So we thought this was fair. That's why the retroactive was thrown in there as well. And we just said rather than have the tracker hours like Chad talked about, it's just easier to do a percentage. So that's how that evolved.
Is there any other discussion? I have a motion and a second.
Yep. Mr. Chair,
Redlinger?
I would just ask for permission to abstain from this vote. Thank you to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Redlinger. We have a motion and a second. The motion is to approve interim compensation to the co-executive directors at a fee of $3,300 per month per co-executive director for a total of $6,600 per month. Any more discussion? Mr. Steen.
So $6,600 a month for 20% time. I mean, is that what I understood? So that equates to about almost $400,000 for the executive director's compensation.
No.
I simply took the 6,600 divided by 0.2 and annualized it, and that's 396,000.
Mr. Grenberg, go ahead.
Yeah, the 20% is based on the hourly calculation times 2,080 hours. Again, the hourly rate that they currently have in their salaries was averaged out, and then times 2,080 times 20%. So
I actually have the math, Commissioner Steen.
What's that?
Actually, you want to see the
I'm
math?
just curious. I wish it was in our folder because I'm a numbers guy and I can look at numbers. But if we're paying $6,600 a month, right, and that's for 20% of their time, right? If you just annualize that, it's $396,000 is what we're equating the co-executives, the executive director's time is what we'd be paying those positions.
I think what you're doing is extrapolating if it was a full-time position, is what I'm hearing you say, correct?
Yeah, if you equate this to a full-time position, it's $400,000.
Yep, and I think the logic still then, though, is we get to a point where it's $1,500 if you divide it in half. Let's pretend we say 20% of the gross. The point being is it's still substantively less than we paying our existing, or if we had an executive director at this moment, it's substantively less than that. And I think I'm more than supportive of allocating a bit of a bonus to the two gentlemen that we have working for us, probably for the next 3 to 6 months, never mind what they did before. So your point is correct, and I don't care.
Right, thank you.
And I would just add, when you do the math, it's with two people, it doesn't get to that amount if you do one. And right now we're in a co-role, so when they single it out, the math changes.
Mayor Dardis.
Mayor Carlson?
I would also state that it's not necessarily a bonus or an award. It is compensation for work that they are doing.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Peterson?
to validate again, I'm still expecting my director, Mr. Wilson, to be doing his job full-time at the courthouse, because this scenario presented itself some years ago that brought us some consternation, and we had to make an adjustment. So I need him for his 40-plus hours, regardless of what he's doing for the Diversion Authority.
Is there any other discussion? Mayor Mahoney?
I just think we all have to remember that the project is still moving, it's still going on right now, and it hasn't stopped in any way. And the two are doing a great job to keep it going, and the staff's doing a great job to keep it going. So we appreciate everybody's
Are they here? Okay, I'm just about done. Okay. Thanks, Calvin.
Commissioner Grimberg, do you have something else to add?
No, I'm at the airport here, and they're saying we're going to leave, so I'm sorry, I should have muted, sorry.
Thank you for that update. Is there any further discussion? Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Ettinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
And that is everyone.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Mayor
Please,
Dardis, if I could just add one other thing under other business.
Certainly. Mayor Carlson.
This is in response to an inquiry that Commissioner Pepcorn made in regards to the Minnesota requests. Once these get handed out, I will direct everyone to the page that looks like an Excel database. If you look down to where it says total state and city committed and contributions between the state of Minnesota and the city of Moorhead, we have contributed $124 million towards the project. I wasn't a science major in college, but I do understand basic physics, and if there is water flowing down a river, you need both sides to hold the river in and make it flow north. So we are doing our part to make sure that the Minnesota side has the water flowing north. Also, I wanted to state that in the Joint Powers Agreement, it does specify that the Minnesota partners are not to exceed $100 million, and that is in 2015 dollars. If you put that in 2024 dollars, that comes to $133 million. Obviously, we're a little bit short under that, but we have been continuing as required in the JPA to do our part in going to our Minnesota legislature every single year to ask for funding. And last year, this was the handout that between the Clay County partners and the City of Moorhead partners, this is the sheet that we put together that we each went and did lobbying through the state to ask for the full amount of all of the remaining projects, which is the $52.42 million. That would encompass all of the projects in the state of Minnesota. We will continue to do that, but just want to note that we are doing our part. I would also like to state and draw attention to the fact that there are two statements in the Joint Powers Agreement. It's basically the same sentence, but it also states that the City of Fargo will contribute any state of North Dakota grants, funds, or cost share allocations made available for the project. It says that also for Cass County. So this means that the sales tax that is being collected by the two entities is not just for the North Dakota partners. A number of that sales tax funding comes from outside sources. A significant portion likely is from Minnesota. It is for the whole project, and I would just like to remind everyone that we are working together on one project. So this North Dakota, Minnesota stuff, I think, is detrimental to the project and detrimental to the relationships, and we need to work together as one team to make this project. So that was all I had. Thank you, Mayor Daughters.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there anything other that we'd like to discuss in other business? Anyone? Mayor Mahoney.
Mayor Carlson, this is an excellent summation of all the money Moorhead has put into this project, and Minnesota has as well. I think we always get confused because this thing actually started in 2009, that we all started working on this, and everybody's been working very diligently on it. So it's really nice to have this summation, because I often get asked, what's Minnesota got in it when we talk to North Dakota legislative people. So I would like this to be reflected somewhere in our record that we could have, so we could utilize it when we're talking North Dakota legislative body at any time. But it's amazing, this project's been going on so long, but how much money has been put into the project. So appreciate this update.
I would also ask that Mayor Carlson, you share this with staff, so the finance members that are not in attendance today, that are joining us by phone, have access to this information, please.
And all board members, Bernie, if we don't mind, because all the board members don't get this. This would be nice to have.
Yep, and I can certainly bring it up tomorrow and bring copies for everybody on the board who didn't get a copy today.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Peterson.
And thank you again, Mayor. I think this is also good information for our friends in the state legislature that maybe don't pay attention to this because they're not from here. So not being disrespectful, just matter of fact, they have other things to do. So this is helpful for next session as well, just as a learning or maybe a teachable moment. So thank you, Mayor.
Yep, and I would also like to note that these numbers likely will increase because in 2023, a lift station wasn't $2.25 million. So hopefully it doesn't go much more, but there's always that possibility.
Any other discussion on other business? Any finance committee member wish to bring anything forward? Any staff member? Thank you all for what you do. Our next meeting is September 25th. We stand adjourned. Thank you.